Hello there, and thank you for joining us on our 12-day Norwegian Fjords cruise aboard the Celebrity Apex. On this cruise, we're going to visit the ports of Haugesund, Flam, Olden, Tromso, Honnigsvag, Molde, and Stavanger on our 12-day adventure, with some of the cruise actually ending up in the Arctic Circle on the two ports in Tromso and Honnigsvag. So we ended up departing out of Tampa, and we did a non-stop flight on Virgin Airways that goes from Tampa straight into Heathrow. That's actually a very, very nice flight to be able to take so that we didn't have to make any stops. And actually, our experience on Virgin was really nice. It was a very, very nice flight. It was a little over 8 hours in the air and very comfortable, even just in coach seating. Their seats are nice and comfortable. So out of Heathrow, we ended up grabbing a National Express bus that goes out of Heathrow and is about a maybe 2-hour bus ride that goes down into Southampton. Southampton is their cruise port. You don't really go directly out of London. It's kind of too far inland, but you'll go down to Southampton, and we ended up staying the night and getting there a day early so that we didn't have to worry about it. And we stayed at the Southampton Harbor Hotel. It was actually a really nice hotel, to be honest. Haven't stayed in too many hotels that are a lot nicer than this. Had a beautiful view right out into the bay here, and very, very comfortable, very nice place to stay in. Great service. They even had free gin over on the table, free bottles of water that were there. It's probably one of the nicer places you can get. I'm not going to say it was cheap. I think it was a little over $300 a night, but we had some hotel credit through Delta Airlines. We had a couple $100 we could use through Delta Stays, so it actually ended up being just, $100 and something for the night that we were there, which was totally worth it for how nice this hotel was. I mean, it's a phenomenal view right out to the harbor here, and they even have their own restaurant on site, the Harbor, that's got these really great views up on believe their second floor that looks right out over into all the little downtown areas and across the harbor there in Southampton. And their food is very good. They're got a pretty good selection of wine. Their fish and chips was excellent. She ended up getting a bunch of scallops. And then here's a little drink menu that you can kind of peruse. But I'm pretty sure there's a billion some odd dollars worth of boats that are out in that harbor. So we went ahead and decided after dinner to go take a walk around the harbor out here and have a look and see what was around the area here. It's actually very nice to walk around. It's very easy to walk around this little part of Southampton. This is a very small section of Southampton. It's actually a pretty good sized city there, but it was neat to go take a look and just have a little tour around the area since we had never visited Southampton before. Now, the next morning we ended up getting on the Celebrity Apex for our day of departure, which was pretty easy, to be very honest. It was just a quick little taxi ride, about 10 minutes or so, over to the port. There were also a number of cruise ships that were actually here today. I think they can handle probably 4 or 5 cruise ships here out of Southampton. It's a really nice big port. Our first night out, we ended up going to see a local comedian. He's a British comedian, Phil Melbourne. I didn't do any of the shows there. I hate to ruin comedians' shows by kind of recording it, so I just did a little bit of the pictures here. He was actually really funny. He did a great job for his performance. And then that night, we went back into Eden for a little bit of live musical performance before we ended up sticking around for Night of Enchantment here.
Welcome to Night of Enchantment here in Eden. Tonight is all about L-O-V-E, love. Here we go. L is for the way you look at me. More and more and start to play. Dance with me, make me sway. Get up.
On our first day out of Southampton was a day at sea, getting up into Norway. So this day we decided we'd go ahead and start off in the gym here on the Apex, which is a really nice gym, and kind of give you some views of the sea that we're traveling through here, which is not the typical Caribbean cruise that you normally see on a lot of videos. There are a few people that are willing to go ahead and brave the water at sea here. It's not necessarily the warmest, you can tell, but it is fine to go swimming if you don't mind a little bit of a chill in the water, but it's not too bad. The hot tubs are much better. Most people decided to go ahead and spend their time here in the solarium pool, which is heated and nice, and it's where I chose to go ahead and put my feet up here for a little bit of a view as we're sailing through the English Channel here and up towards Norway. We ate at the buffet a lot, and I'm going to show the buffet in different pieces and at different times so you get an idea of what the buffet is like on these ships. But because of the views of where we were sailing, the buffet ended up being a more favorable choice than eating in the dining rooms, because we'd rather have the views looking out to the ocean as we're sailing through the fjords, and the buffets on these ships are excellent. And now off to our evening entertainment for Crystal Eyes and the Captain.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is my absolute pleasure to officially welcome you on board the Apex. I'm Captain Nicholas. I'm coming from the island of Crete in Greece.
Alrighty, so our first stop here was in Haugesund in southwestern Norway. Haugesund is a fairly good sized town. It's not a little tiny place. They've got a fair amount of people that live here. You can tell by the pictures here. Now, Haugesund is really nice to just kind of go walk around and go take a look. We ended up grabbing just a hop-on hop-off bus to go kind of tour around at a few of the little stops that they have here. Here's our little tour bus that we grabbed right there, and kind of a picture of the Apex as we're going through this. So it stops at various different points. There's a couple of monuments, there's a little park, there's a little drive through the town, and you can get a pretty good idea of what it's like in this town just by kind of grabbing the hop on hop off. I think it was $40 US a person to have an all-day ticket to go do this, so it wasn't super expensive, and you got a nice little tour around. It takes you to some of the little fountains and buildings in different areas that you can go see. And then here it drops us off at a nature park area Now the buses, they typically run about every 30 minutes, and they just kind of, wherever you get dropped off is where you get picked up, about every 30 minutes or so on the hour. But it was a nice little way to go hike through one of the nature parks, and it heads on out here to a little lake area that they have in a little park. It's really, really pretty. This is Norway, but this is not nearly as pretty as Norway will actually get. It gets better than this, and this is actually very nice. There's actually a little diving tower there. I'm not sure I would be willing to go jump into there, but it's probably a little bit chilly for most, especially on this day. And the weather actually got even warmer as we were in Norway. This was a pretty typical day, actually a little bit cooler than a lot of the trip as we got going here. We ended up bringing too many clothes, to be honest. Bring a mix of clothes if you're coming to Norway in the summertime. It can be rainy and 55, or it can be sunny and 75 to 80 degrees Fahrenheit. It can be a very varied mix here. It can be changing on a regular basis. So just bring kind of a variety of clothes that may fit the different days as you go throughout. So that's my best advice for the weather in Norway in the summer. It's not too bad most of the time. We were very lucky we had really good weather most of the time that we were here. So as we get kind of going along here, this is just one of the monuments that they have here that we got to go take a look at, and it's got a really great view out to the ocean from the top of the town. And as we kind of get going back through the town of Haugesund here, it's gonna take us back into more of a downtown area where you can kind of do some shopping and a little bit more sightseeing on foot. We ended up just walking around the harbor here and grabbing something to eat here in a little bit, but they do have a lot of big battery powered ferries that they run throughout the area here. There's a ton of places to eat in Haugesund. We didn't necessarily go in for a full meal because we actually like the food on Celebrity, so we ended up just kind of touring throughout the town here until we worked up an appetite in a little bit. And hopefully a bunch of these videos that we do put out are helpful, and they do provide you with some information and are helpful or entertaining in some way. And if they are, by all means, please give us a like and a subscribe. It would really appreciate it, and it's totally free to do it. Now, honestly, literally the best strawberries I've ever had in my life, and probably the best baked goods I have ever had. It is phenomenal here.
It was delicious.
So, and we chose to go ahead and just walk back to the ship, which you can here. Gave us an opportunity to do some filming and let you see some more of the town and the city area without it being from a bus ride. Kind of give us a little opportunity to give you some different points of view of what this is like here. It's very easy to visit, and it is absolutely stunning and beautiful. And as we get going here, you're going to see stuff that is even better than what Haugesund has to offer. So as we depart here out of Haugesund, we're going to end up heading back and going up and grabbing a little bit more of our buffet dinner that evening. So again, chose to eat in the buffet because A, the food is really good, and B, on these cruises, the view is really good. So hopefully this will give you at least a pretty good idea of how good their buffets are here on the Celebrity Apex. They always have lots of different varieties that you can choose from. And as we go along the video, you'll see even more and more options that you can go ahead and pick from. And then after dinner, we headed back to the club for a little bit of music before we ended up heading off to bed. Our second stop is in Flåm, Norway. Now, Flom is a very small little town here. They have maybe a total population of 400 people here that live here on a regular basis. It is a bit of a tourist and vacation town for the summertime. But the really nice thing about Flom is the journey to get back to it. The fjords and the mountains that you cruise through here are stunning. We've been to Alaska before, and this is Alaska, but better. The fjords are gorgeous, they're long, you just continue through them and have these just amazing views looking out to the water and the mountains that surround them. Flom is at the very end of this main fjord here, and there's always little towns along the way as you go through, and they're all serviced by some sort of road system or some of the ferries that we'll see here in a little bit. But they have very good transportation throughout Norway. It's not necessarily the fastest way to get around, but they have no problems putting up a nice road and digging a tunnel to get you wherever you need to go. On this day, we chose to do a tour through the cruise line. And it was a bus tour up to one of the lookout points that's up above one of the fjords to give you a really, really good idea of what these look like when you get up to the tops of the mountains and the roads here. So the bus ride will kind of take us out through the river here, and then ended up going along the edge of the fjords through a little town here, and then up the side of the mountain. But the really nice thing that we actually noticed about Norway as we were going through here was also the cellular coverage was phenomenal. I never went anywhere where I didn't get a signal no matter where we were at. It was absolutely fantastic. So as we kind of get up here to the tops with these views, you can kind of understand what I'm talking about. Now, there is no way my camera can do these views justice. They are spectacular. It is an absolutely amazing look from Stegastein up here. You can't imagine how beautiful it is, and it gets to be a very popular point for people to come visit on their travels and journeys, whether they're from Norway or on a cruise or from anywhere else. It's absolutely spectacular. Now, on our way back down from Stegastein, they ended up taking us back into a little town that was actually a nice little rest stop for us to kind of take a little break in on the way back down from here. So hopefully it'll kind of give you a nice idea here of really what Norway is a little more about. There are ferries that run between all these little towns. It's super nice. They're actually really huge battery electric powered ferries. They are dead quiet. They are advanced. Norway is really, really big on its environmental impact and the way that they operate their transportation system. They try to do it as best they can with as nice of stuff as they can. These ferries are beautiful. They are hundreds of people can fit in these ferries. From what I was reading, they can handle 50 to 60 miles between charges up and down the fjords. Wherever they stop, they just kind of plug in and keep on going with their transportation throughout. And again, we found ourselves a nice little bakery with some amazing baked goods as we were able to kind of sit here in the little town and get a little bit of video and kind of relax on our journey before we ended up taking the bus ride back into Flom to kind of give you a little bit of a tour around the actual little town here of Flom. It's really, really nice. It's just a quiet little town that does a lot of its economy from tourism and travel. They'll have people there with campers that'll park and camp out and spend days here in Flom. The town is kind of a nice little touristy town. One of the claim to fames is it is the end of the rail line for the Flamsbånd, which is their railroad that they have that runs throughout this area here. It's something that you can do while you're here in Flåm, even on a cruise. That train can be booked as a tour. You can also book it ahead of time on your own if you're savvy enough to get onto the website and just look up the Flåmsbånd and see if they have some open tickets for you. You can do it in a day. And it's a beautiful rail line from what I understand. Unfortunately, we did not get a chance to do the Flåmsbånd while we were here this time, but hopefully at some point in the future I can get a chance to take that. Now, not a bad view for a workout, obviously. It's actually a really pretty view from up here. The fjords are loaded with waterfalls. Everywhere you go down the sides of these mountains, there's just waterfalls falling everywhere. And here is our little sail out through the fjords as we kind of head out on the cruise ship here. Hopefully this will just kind of give you an idea of just how beautiful it is. It's truly a beautiful place. If you enjoy something like Alaska, you will absolutely love the views, even out the back of the ship here, if you've ever been to Alaska. Now, our next stop was up in Olden. Olden, we booked a tour here. So as we're sailing in here through Olden, you'll kind of get the idea of what it's like here. Most of the mountains, as you get further back in, even in the summertime here, they do have snow on them. But once you get down along these fjords, the weather changes drastically. It is beautiful and nice and pleasant. Even on some of the rainy days, it's really not that cold. The common saying in Norway is there's no such thing as bad weather, just bad clothes, which is probably true if you live in an environment like this. So you just make sure that you wear the right clothes for the weather that you're having that day. Now, our trip out here was just a bus ride out along through Olden and a couple of the little surrounding towns here. Kind of give you a chance here to take a look at what a lot of this was like here. Again, it's absolutely stunning views as you go along here. We are actually gonna be back for that there. That's a little foreshadowing. We're gonna end up there a little bit later on in the video here. So here in Strin, we kind of made a little stop. We kind of got out and walked around just to kind of stretch our legs from the bus ride, just to give people a chance for a bathroom break and to kind of take a little bit of a tour around this nice little town. A lot of the towns here were very, very clean, very organized, very nice to actually kind of go walk around in and spend a little bit of time in. And then as you get outside these towns, you get out into some of the farmland and you get out into these just kind of these cute, picturesque little, I'm going to call it a village instead of a town, but they're just these small little towns throughout Norway that exist. There's a lot of people in Norway live in a lot of these little towns, and they are very spread out throughout the country. And it makes it a very kind of low population density and easy for people to just kind of spread out a little bit and have a nice little town that they can just kind of call their own, but still have the ability to travel throughout the country as they wish. It's actually really nice. Like I said, they have no problems handling their transportation. They have plenty of public transportation with ferries and trains to get people wherever they need to go. So here we are going up the Loen Skylift. So this is part of the tour that we booked. Sometimes this line can get pretty long, and today with the cruise ship there, I think it took us about 20 minutes or so to go up the lift to get through the line and get our ride up to the top. And it was actually an amazing view once we got up here. It'll give you an idea of just kind of how beautiful the fjords are, how many of them there are, where they go. And yeah, they do actually do paragliding right off of the top of the lift here. So if you're into that, by all means, go ahead and bring your chute with you on the cruise and have a good time. So, but like I said, it's absolutely gorgeous up here, and you can get just spectacular views from the top of this look out up here. There are bathrooms up here. There's a little restaurant up here if you got some time and you want to grab something to eat. There's a snack shop and a gift shop and all that other good stuff. And you can even kind of go hike up behind here a little bit if you want to and you have a little bit of time. But we didn't have too much time for all of that, so we ended up grabbing the lift and getting some pictures and spending a little bit of time up here and then heading right back on down the lift to where we got back ahead of time in the parking lot. But there you go, kind of an idea of what this is like. Then we just kind of walked on out here to take a few more pictures of the fjord and the lake that are here. And we also got a picture of the Queen's boat and the Queen herself as well, kind of sitting there in front of the boat. And then headed on back over to the Celebrity Apex to where we could go ahead and get back on the ship here for our time that evening aboard. And again, back into the buffet. I promise you, we did not eat in the dining rooms. We really did come up here every night and eat in the buffet. It's some of the best food on the ship, and it gives you a really good variety. But yeah, you can get just about any kind of food you want here up in the buffet as you cruise throughout the fjords. It's actually really wonderful. And the nice thing about coming up here also in the fjords in the summertime is it doesn't matter how late you eat dinner. The sun is still up, the buffet's still going later in the evening, and the view is still phenomenal out those windows as you're sailing throughout the Norwegian fjords. Now, our next day was a day at sea, and we ended up coming out to have lunch on the back of the ship here, and then we went ahead and did the Arctic Circle plunge with the captain.
Welcome to the Arctic Circle. Did you ever think it'd be so warm up here? But we have our captain, Captain Nicholas, and his daughter. She kept facing that he has to jump in. So, you wouldn't do it for me, but you'll do it for your daughter. This water is 49 below zero. I've been very bad at math. And we will be tapping, if you'd like to jump in after we get our captain and senior officers in the Viking tradition, we'll be tapping you with the hammer, and then you can dive in because you're always supposed to put cold water on an injury, right? 4, 3, 2, 1. Captain, take the first plunge with our navigational officer, and away they go. Our second in command, step on up. You want to do this? You're dressed for it. Come on up here. Up and go.
Alrighty, and here we go, walking off to go jump into the ice cold water, which in all honesty wasn't that ice cold, but there I am, and there I go. So it wasn't too bad, honestly. It wasn't awful cold. They did have a big block of ice that they were passing around to people just to kind of make it a little bit colder, but that was kind of about it. It was fun to kind of go jump in with the captain and the rest of the crew, but there we are. I'd been in there long enough. Time to go ahead and get out and kind of dry off. And yeah, you know, it wasn't too bad. It really wasn't that bad. So anyway, that evening we went ahead and went and got dinner at Raw on 5. This is kind of our one specialty dining that we did here in the middle of the cruise, and it was nice to kind of go do Raw on 5. They have really good sushi. It is a la carte pricing, and it is also one of the few restaurants that has a really nice view. If you get one of the window seats here, most of them have a very good view here, no matter where you sit here at Raw on 5. But it's one of our favorite places to go because it's not as bad for some of the specialty dining. And then we went back to Eden for a little bit of live music here.
Only hit the road when you're missing home. Only know you love when you let her go.
After a little bit of music in Eden and the Grand Plaza, we went ahead and grabbed some views before heading back to the club, where they were doing a tribute to Fleetwood Mac that evening. All right, now we come to our very first port in the Arctic Circle. Tromso is a pretty good sized town with nearly 80,000 people that live here. It is kind of back through some of these fjords. It takes a little bit to sail back into Tromso to get into it. But on this particular day, we did have some rain here in the morning. And as a result, we ended up having to walk on out with a rain jacket, but the weather was still actually fairly warm. It really wasn't that cold at all. And the time that we spent here in Tromso, we ended up going on a tour in the morning where we booked it through the cruise line just kind of as a quick tour of the highlights of Tromso, where we kind of took a bus that out of the town and took us to some of the little outlying stops that you can go to and kind of get a good idea of the surrounding area of Tromso. It took us a short little ride here through the town before zipping us on out to some of the other little small outlying areas out past the airport here. Yes, there really are reindeer here, and they really do end up in people's front yard. Most people kind of find them a little bit of a nuisance, but anyway, we ended up kind of cruising around to this really beautiful place to go get some views of Tromso from a little bit higher up, and then we ended up heading back over to an area where we can get even some more views from one of the churches that are on the opposite side of the fjord from where the cruise ship docked. But after we ended up doing this quick little tour and a little sightseeing trip through Tromso through the cruise line, we ended up going and getting dropped off back in the port, where they had buses that would take us back into the town center. And no, we did not eat at the McDonald's, even though it is the furthest northern McDonald's that exists in the world. We ended up being able to kind of walk through the town on our own and visit kind of some of the little sites around here. We actually had kind of a nice little time just walking through Tromso. It's very easy to kind of go shopping, see some of the sights. These areas they have set aside, they're really just pedestrian areas that you can walk through and do shopping. We ended up going into a little shopping mall that had this, I don't even know how to explain it. It's like a little themed cafe. Each one of the little areas has their own little decorator theme. The food was really, really good, and it was just a kind of pleasant little place to go visit. It's just in some little shopping mall there that you run into. Their port is absolutely beautiful. They have a number of different tours that run out of here. I'm sure you can find something to do if you ended up staying here in Tromso and you weren't on a cruise. But it's actually kind of a nice little place to just visit. The weather got so much better throughout the day. There's all kinds of different things to just go see and walk around and do without having to spend hardly any money if you don't want to here in Tromso. The sail out was just absolutely spectacular here. I tried to give you an idea of some of the views here and some of the waterfalls and kind of what it really sounds like. These waterfalls are huge. You can hear them all the way back into the fjords on the ship. They have a ton of water coming down them. So, like I said, as you go throughout these fjords, you're going to see waterfall after waterfall after waterfall as you visit and sail throughout all these different fjords. Now, again, back into dinner with a view on board the Apex as we sail out of Tromso here. One of the crazy things about sailing this far north is you do not get a sunset. We went 3 days without a sunset. And then for our entertainment that night, it was the comedy magician Adam Hempstall, and Vicky got drug up on stage.
I'm the big heavy bag of flour. That's great. Now, Vicky, where's home? Where are you from? From Florida! From Florida. Now, Vicky, again, same rules. The reason we got you up on stage is just witness everything that's happening, okay, and be the eyes of the audience. Now, I've got my cards just here, Vicky, and I want you to see that they aren't in any particular order. You can see that'd be great. Okay, I'm going to get the next prop just here. That shut you up, didn't it? But of course, should the worst come to worst, and poor Vicky is lying on the floor with blood and cards everywhere, unable to hear that round of applause. Do you think she should hear it now, ladies and gentlemen? Yeah? All for you. Makes it all worthwhile, doesn't it? So, can you hear me? Yeah. Vicky, give me a yeah! Yeah. Vicky, here we go. Vicky, I want you to. Are you ready? Here we go. Vicky, throw the cards in the air in 3, 2, 1.
All right, now as we continue heading further north into the Arctic Circle, we're going to end up here in Honnigsvag. Honnigsvag is kind of the gateway to the northernmost point up here. No, it is not gray like that. It is actually very colorful here. This is a beautiful little town. You're gonna get off the cruise ship here and you can just simply walk through the town of Honnigsvag. It is a picturesque little place to go walk through and just kind of spend a little time seeing a couple of different places. We ended up stopping for coffee and pastries. I'm talking to some of the locals here. I'm honestly not sure how I didn't gain 20 pounds with all the pastries I ate, but I did not. So they also have these ferries that run throughout the area here that allow people to transport their cars and themselves throughout these different northern areas here to make it a little bit easier for their transportation. But the town itself is just kind of a fun little place to kind of come walk through and either stop at a cafe or a restaurant or one of the little bars. You can do a hike up the side of the mountain here. They also do tours that take you up to the northernmost point, or you can just be weird and dumb like us and get pictures of all of that stuff and not get a chance to go fishing.
I want to go fishing.
No.
Fishing.
No. Now, as we kind of walk through the town here, we were able to get a bunch of video of all the different fishing boats that are around here and kind of give you an idea of the surrounding areas and what Honnigsvag kind of is about here. It is a pub, and you always got to go into one of these little pubs and go ahead and try out some of these local beers. These are made locally. They are very good, actually. It was kind of a fun little place to kind of go hang out and grab something to drink and try something local and to mess with some of the trolls as well. And then after that, we went ahead and headed back on board the Apex for our sail out and our kind of view of the northernmost point up there in Northern Europe. It's actually visible from the Apex and probably from that little boat bobbing around in the water. Again, it is just stunning views every time you come out of one of these fjords out into the open ocean. And again, it was time for our dinner buffet, just to kind of give you an idea of some of the other different types of foods that they offer here on the buffet. So you get an idea of everything that the Apex does have to offer on their buffet so that you can decide what's best for you to eat. And then after dinner, it was off to a little bit of show time back in Eden. After leaving Honnigsvag, we ended up having a day at sea as we headed back south. Now at this point the weather had actually started really warming up, as you can tell by everybody out here on deck. It was volleyball time in the pool and everybody was out trying to get a tan while we were still sailing through the Arctic Circle. It was considered to be pretty unseasonably warm weather at this point. So, lucky for us. Now, as the cruise got going here, we ended up going back in for a lunch buffet to kind of give you a little bit different look at some of the different things they do have here on the lunch buffet as well. So, just something different. And then after we went through the lunch buffet here and grabbed something to eat, we headed off back into Eden for some more live music. And then after the music in Eden, we headed off to the Shine the Night party. Now our next stop heading back south out of the Arctic Circle was down into the town of Molde. Now, when we pulled into Molde, they let us basically run through the fjords here and through all the little islands. We got a great view of the ferries that transport people around throughout all the little islands here in the fjords. And they let us basically bring the ship right up to their pier that's right in the town of Molde here. Luckily enough for us, it made it very easy to kind of take a tour around the town. It's a beautiful little town. It was just the easiest thing ever to kind of just walk off the ship and go literally smell the roses that the town had to offer. It's a kind of just a pretty little town that you can tour through. They have a little soccer stadium that is right there that you can go walk around. You can take a look at their little boat harbor that they have here. It's actually an incredibly warm day here. They are literally out getting tans on the boat and hanging out, just kind of hanging out, spending their time in the sun, which is probably not as common as it should be. But as we're touring around the town here, it just kind of give you an idea of all the little like views and developments that they got. That's a hotel that they have there at the end. And then we were lucky enough to be there on the day of a street and jazz festival that they had going on in Molde that day. It was neat to kind of walk up and down the streets and tour through the shops and see all the little booths that they had kind of running around. It is just a kind of a pleasant little town to hang out in and experience everything kind of that it has to offer and the views that they have there. So as we go later on here, we're gonna end up getting a look at the little jazz festival that they run through the town, as they're gonna have a bunch of musicians walking through here.
And the parade begins.
And then, of course, we had to find ourselves a local bakery and coffee shop to experience some additional amazing cakes and pastries that they do have here in Molde. And they didn't disappoint. They were absolutely delicious there. That bakery was huge and had a great selection of different food. And then here we are kind of heading up the backside of the town to get some different views before heading out of Molde to sail back out through their fjord and past a bunch of these just quaint little towns and villages that you run past on these fjords. It's just an exceptional view as you kind of head out of these fjords here. I can't tell you how beautiful they are, each and every one, as you just go out with their own different, distinct look as you kind of head out of these fjords here.
So I won't hold back, and you should know that.
And then finally it was time for us to head off to dinner to get a little bit better look here back in the buffet again and see what else we can get a hold of before we headed off to that evening's entertainment with Brian Giambi. He was kind of a stage performer with his own little wonderful little show that he put on after I ended up getting a little bit of something to eat out here on the magic carpet. Now, unfortunately for this show, they didn't allow any video or audio recording, so I kind of gave you some still images here to give you an idea of kind of what the show was like and what it was about. It was actually very entertaining. It was a very fun show to do. Now, our final stop on this cruise was in Stavanger. Stavanger was by far the largest town that we went to. It is well over 150,000 people. It's probably considered a big city in Norway. It's probably in the top 5 when I was looking up the populations, so it's a fairly good sized town here. And like in Molde, they were more than happy to let us cruise through the fjords here and then literally just kind of pull right up to the city and the dock right here. You walk off the ship and there's somebody's house right there in front of you. It was actually pretty easy way to be able to go tour around and go see the town. We ended up having a tour that we booked through Celebrity to go out through one of the fjords, but it wasn't until the afternoon, so we ended up kind of taking a walk through the town here just to kind of give you a little bit of an idea of what Stavanger is like. It is a bit of a mix of modern and high-rise with a little bit more local vibe kind of off to one area here with bars and restaurants and places to go eat before you ended up heading back into kind of an even, I guess, older, quainter area as you kind of keep heading throughout the town here. It's kind of a mix of different things. It's a very interesting, very nice little place to go walking around. And like in every other one of these towns here, they have those shopping areas that are just for pedestrian only. There's not really any cars that are allowed down here into these sections. It's just for the pedestrians and the shops to have for just local access only. And then, like every other town in Norway, I end up looking for the bakery and the coffee shop, and here I found Stavanger's best cinnamon rolls. And they weren't kidding, these were absolutely delicious here. So, like anything else, it's just these beautiful cinnamon rolls with cream in the middle. They think they call them cinnamon dreams, is kind of their translation for it. But then as we were walking through here, these are their trash cans and their dumpsters for the businesses in the town. These things are buried in the ground. These big trucks come by, pick them up out of the ground, and empty them out, and then the people can just kind of come by and drop trash in. Stavanger also does have its own little cathedral here. In the center of Stavanger, they do have this little church that kind of sits like right on a lake in the middle of Stavanger. It's this just the way kind of Norway is. They mix some of these older, beautiful natural environments in with their larger cities, and they do a really good job with it. We never really ran into any place that had any traffic or traffic jams. That really wasn't a thing. All of the towns were generally very quiet, very peaceful places to walk around. They had plenty of transportation for people to kind of be able to get around and get where they need to go, whether it was taxis or buses or ferries or trains or whatever it was. And now here we are heading off on our afternoon cruise out through the fjords. They said that it was supposed to rain today, and they were correct. We are going to end up getting some rain later on here, but this beautiful little tour out through Stavanger and around their bridges was absolutely spectacular. It is just kind of these beautiful waterways that run throughout all of the different cities in Norway that we visited here. Now, this tour ends up heading further down into one of the fjords that I guess the cruise ships or anyone else doesn't go to. They ended up kind of heading out past these bridges. They do everything to get people around through these fjords, bridges, tunnels, you name it, whatever they need to do to allow for faster transportation to get around the country. And it's actually kind of a testament to how well they do run the country and how good their system is here for transportation. So as we end up heading back out here further into the fjords, they kind of take us up close to the rocks. They give us a really, really close up view of all the different formations that exist throughout these fjords. Some of these are just absolutely sheer drop-off cliffs that they have along the fjords here. So kind of a fun way to be able to take pictures. And again, you can actually see that it has started raining on us. Luckily, we were prepared. And like they said, there is no bad weather, just bad clothes. And today I actually brought the right clothes, luckily. So, and we're still not sure how the mountain goats got down here, but apparently they are able to get down here. About halfway through the tour, they ended up stopping for waffles and jam. They had coffee that they served us to kind of keep us going out here, but that's a fairly common Norwegian food. They call them waffles, pancakes. I'm honestly still not sure which one they use most of. But then as we get down the fjords, you end up seeing all these absolutely beautiful waterfalls as you head back into these areas. And they'll stop by and give you a chance to take pictures of it. And it's kind of just a nice little trip. She actually braved the rain out there for a little while in her rain jacket before heading back inside. Now, kind of the highlight of the tour was Pulpit Rock. It is about 2,000 feet up to that formation. You can do it on the boat, and there are tours that will actually take you up there for a walking tour. And then after returning back to the ship, we actually did dining in Cyprus this evening because we were able to kind of get in here and get our dining in before the ship sailed out of Stavanger, and because it was lobster night, we decided to go ahead and go in and grab some lobster tail that evening before heading off to Itinerary.
I saw my reflection in snow-covered hills till the landslide riding down.
Now, on our final day at sea after leaving Stavanger, we ended up heading up to the lunch buffet where they were doing an all chocolate dessert buffet for that cruise, and it was absolutely beautiful. They were also doing a huge tropical fruit display as part of the buffet for that afternoon, where they were doing all kinds of different dragon fruits and strawberries and coconuts and just all kinds of different tasty fruits that you don't normally run into on a cruise. And then that evening for our final dinner, we went ahead and grabbed some beautiful views from deck 15 on the rooftop garden grill. It is the least expensive specialty dining you're going to be able to do on board the Apex. And in my opinion, it also has some of the best views. If you have a really good evening to come sit out here and eat dinner, it is a beautiful view out to the ocean to kind of spend some time and get some dinner. Since the weather was so nice, we decided this would be a great time to go do it. And they really have certainly embraced their wind power there in the English Channel. The rooftop garden grill's food is really, really good. Sometimes the service is a little slow, but it is absolutely really good food. Now, unfortunately, this is the end of our cruise, and unfortunately for us, that is the Apex departing again out of Southampton, and we really wish we were still on it and could go again. But thank you so much for watching. We really do appreciate it, and if you could give us a like and a subscribe, that would be really wonderful.